Ladies, gentlemen, and brethren, we are live across the UK. Indeed, we're live across the world for Solomon Live. Hello, I'm Brodie. I'm a proud Worcestershire Freemason, and I also have the honour of hosting this monthly webinar of lively, engaging Freemasonry conversation. And if you do have any questions to our very special guest this evening, you can submit them via our question and answer facility at the bottom of your screen on Zoom, if you can still find it after the update, by the way. So what are we talking about this evening? Well, it's Armed Forces Covenant, the next steps. So without any further ado, let's welcome our very special guest. Right, what's your brother John Thompson, Provincial Grandmaster of Durham. Sir, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Brodie. Looking forward to our interesting discussion over the next 45 minutes or so. And thanks for giving us an opportunity to speak on this very important topic. I really appreciate that.
No, it's the pleasure's all ours, and this is not the first time you and I have appeared on screen together. Because back in December 2022, feels a long time ago now, you and I were invited to help launch the 7-year strategy. That does feel like a long time ago, doesn't it?
It was. I think it was the day of the train strike or something, wasn't it? I think there wasn't so many in Grand Lodge that day, but yeah, it was fantastic to be invited to help launch that strategy. Yeah, it was a really nice day.
A massive, massive privilege, wasn't it? So, John, what we always like to do, and I know you've seen a few of these, is before we launch into the topic, I think it's really important that we get to know you, because I know you very well indeed, and lots of people watching will do. But equally, there might be some people who don't know who our wonderful Provincial Grandmaster of Durham is. So, why did you become a Freemasonry nearly 30 years ago?
Well, I think it's like most people, discussions with a friend in the pub. He was going off to his Masonic lodge in Hartlepool, and he said to me, "You'll absolutely love it, and there's nothing to be worried about." And I've absolutely loved it from the day I joined, and I absolutely got Freemasonry from day one, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the 29 years or so since I joined. I remember joining quite vividly because my son had just been born. He was in hospital with Andrea, and 3 days later, just before Christmas, I was joining Freemasonry, so it was quite a surreal time, to be honest, but fabulous.
Crikey, there's a lot going on there, welcoming
Just
the
a bit.
boy into the world, and also joining Freemasonry as well. I won't ask you which one was more stressful, John. I'll leave that for another time. You can tell me that when we have a chat afterwards. So, what do you do outside of Freemasonry then? Because being a Provincial Grandmaster, as you know only too well, is one of the biggest jobs there is in all of Freemasonry. You are the head of your province. Let's talk about what you do outside of that.
Well, fortunately, I'm retired now. I was a time served electrician, and started a company about 25 years ago with some fellow colleagues. We were doing a lot of installation work in food factories, doing all the electrical work, the mechanical work, and after 25 years, I fancied a change, and literally just on as that was happening, then I got the opportunity to be PGM. So it sort of tied up quite well. But I've got, I love to be with my family. I love to be with Andrea. We've got a lovely caravan at Ripon, so we try to get away as much as we can. So yeah, so I'm enjoying retirement, but your Freemasonry takes a big lump of that time, because we're quite keen to really push Durham, really push Freemasonry.
You did a great job, and I can see that from a distance, if you will. And also, before somebody sends a question in, what's behind your shoulder there, John? Because there's a lot of Disney characters there.
Oh yeah, if anyone who knows me I'm Disney daft. So we spend all our holidays in Florida usually, and yeah, you can see all my characters behind me. So yeah, Disney daft. That's
Oh,
probably that's me vice.
oh, that no, and what a great vice to have. So, before we launch into the topic and talk about being Provincial Grandmaster in a little bit more detail, how you got that high office, but we also need to talk about, don't we, services within the family, because you've got this big role within Freemasonry now, Armed Forces Covenant, and engaging with so many brethren across the UK. So I've got to ask you, are there any members of the services within the family?
Yeah, both mother and father both were in the services after the Second World War. Dad's 97 now, so
Oh,
just missed out on the war, but was keen to join up afterwards with Mum, and they met there in the services, and then relocated to the northeast. So, and they've got that, they instilled in me that service, work ethic, in me and my family, and I think we take that forward in whatever we do, so to speak. So I was very keen when I thought we could do something with the armed forces coming. I thought it was an ideal opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. But for you to get the role of engaging with the provinces, if you will, districts, and so on and so forth, in order for you to get that, you've proven that you've got a very successful Masonic career there, John, and the man for the job, if you will. So you were provincial junior warden. You were also given the job of running your festival, and that was incredible for you as well, because your target was 2.7, wasn't it? And in the end,
Was
even during COVID, you managed to top that to 3.5. Assistant provincial grandmaster as well. So let's talk about how you got the role of provincial grandmaster.
I think it was probably the culmination of all the things leading up to that. I think Brody I'd been quite visible in the province as junior warden, and obviously when you raise money for a festival, you're everywhere in your province. You're at all the lodges, all the chapters, so you get to know a lot of people. And I had a fantastic support team around me. You know, it's not a one-man job raising 3.5 million, but we did a fantastic job. I enjoyed being an assistant provincial grandmaster. I actually stepped down from that role to look after my parents because they weren't doing so good then. And then our provincial grandmaster stood down, and then I was, the most worshipful grandmaster invited me to be provincial grandmaster, which was sort of an absolutely wonderful and very surprising honor. But it's something that I've thoroughly loved doing, and you know,
And
really.
would you say this has been one of your highlights so far during your tenure? Because
Oh,
this
it's
is
got to be.
huge, isn't it? I mean, this is so
Yeah,
important.
yeah. It's got to be being a provincial grandmaster and help to shape a province and help shape Freemasonry in your locality. Then yeah, it's an absolute honour to do that.
All right. Well, look, I think we've got to know you a little bit, John. There's so much more we could talk about your Masonic career and about your wonderful province. But let's talk about the armed forces now. Why do you think, in your opinion, there's such a strong connection between the services, the armed forces, and Freemasonry? Because they seem to go together really, really well, don't they?
They do, Brody. I think, when you think of culture, camaraderie, many people joining many lodges after the Great War and the Second World War, we've got that service and duty, both organisations, with an emphasis on commitment to serving others. In Freemasonry, we do that through charity and moral development. And in the armed forces, they do that with, defending our nation. So I think Freemasons resonate with that brothers in arms sort of term, which symbolizes, I think, the bond of many veterans, and I think Freemasonry just gives them that sort of structure that they've probably had in the services. And I think it's a natural fit. You've got that hierarchy, you've got that traditions, the rituals that you have in both organizations, and I think they work really well together.
Yeah, it's a perfect fit, isn't it? And there's so many veterans, isn't there, across the Constitution who could really make use of Freemasonry and vice versa as well. It's
Well,
a
you think,
wonderful thing.
Brody, there's 2.4 million veterans in this country.
Wow.
You probably wouldn't think that. You've got about 40%, I think, are under 65, and 60% are over 65, and that's from many conflicts. When you think of the main remembrance services that focused on the Second World War, but the majority of them veterans are not with us anymore. It's those who come on afterwards. So there's a lot of people who are out there looking and probably needing support, and I think we can help support in our own way.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer if you're not quite a crass term to use, but it really is, isn't it? Now, Armed Forces Covenant, I think most of us know exactly what it is. We hear it. We've heard about lots of provinces, indeed our own, signing the covenant. But let's dig a little bit deeper now, John, if that's okay.
Mm.
What is the Armed Forces Covenant? What does it actually mean, rather than signing a bit of paper to say we're supporting our veterans, if you will?
Well, the covenant is actually a solemn pledge that our country has with its armed forces, both serving reservists and retired, along with their families, to ensure that they're treated with fairness and respect. and it acknowledges the sacrifices that our military personnel and their families have when they're serving with their families, when they're moving from, place to place, children in schools being moved around, housing. There's a lot of things there which can really upheave the family, and I think that's where the covenant tries to step in, and many employers sign the covenant, and then through a signature of the covenant try to support their employees who are military veterans, reservists, and such like.
And how did you hear about the covenant in the first place? Because I know you signed it originally when you were an employee, and we spoke about that earlier on. But was that the first time you'd heard about it, or did you know a lot
Yeah,
about it in the build up to that?
yeah, pretty much was. It was brought to my attention uh, about the Armed Forces Covenant, and encouraging companies to sign the covenant and support the veterans and the community. So we signed as my company a good few years ago, long before UGLE did. And then we've had a great employees who are ex-military, ex-veterans. They can bring an awful lot to a company. So it really worked for us. So I was really heartened when United Grand Lodge and the Most Worshipful Grand Master signed in 2021, and then provinces were starting to sign. But I was a little bit worried that it would be a signature on a document and we wouldn't really do as much as we could. And it's great to see that we are doing much more than just signing it. We're actually making a difference.
Yeah, and that's what this is all about, isn't it? That's what this is all about. So we talked about what this is, the importance of the covenant. We've talked about that very close connection between Freemasonry and the services. On your travels, John, and not necessarily whilst you've been leading this, but on your travels as a Freemason, when have you seen that beautiful synergy with Freemasonry and the armed forces coming together? When have you seen it in action, so to speak?
Well, if I think back to one event earlier in the year, there's a charity called the Not Forgotten Charity. And a guy called Jamie Watkin from Suffolk has really been a bit of a lead on this. And uh, he's got provinces to support the Not Forgotten Charity. And earlier in the week, they had 5 events on 5 separate days. I think it was Yorkshire North and East, Herefordshire, Oxford, Kent, and Suffolk. And basically, this is a day of entertainment for veterans. It's a little bit like a drive-in, is one the best description. They have a stage, they have musical acts, they have a hog roast, they have entertainment all day for veterans. And this is getting veterans in that area involved, coming out for the day, where some, we get veterans which can be a little bit reclusive. And some of the great stories that I heard from Jamie, there was one guy he'd met up with members of his organization, his troop, so to speak, from 30 years ago, and got them back together talking. And so it's been fabulous. And the one I went to in York, which was organised by Yorkshire North East Riding, was a fantastic, lovely summer's day. I think there's about over 100 veterans there being supported, and it's helping with loneliness. It's helping our bereaved veterans and our injured veterans. And then obviously earlier this year, or earlier this month, I should say, we had the national service at the Arboretum, the
Oh,
National Arboretum in Staffordshire. That was the first one where we'd done it as a national organisation. There was Freemasons from all over the country. I think we took about 20 from Durham, and it was a lovely service. And if you've never been to the Arboretum, it's a wonderful place. You've got the Freemason Memorial, but you've got 400 other memorials there to armed forces, to charities, to individual services and units. So it's a wonderful day out. And then obviously recently, last weekend or so, we had all our cenotaph services, our remembrance services, and all over the country. And I'm sure Freemasons were supporting them all over the country.
oh, absolutely. Oh, well, It's easy to see it, isn't it, on our communication sources as well. So many Freemasons helping with poppy stalls and so on and so forth. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
So here's a question for you, John, and I've often thought this time of year especially. I always refer to this as the remembrance period as well. So there's lots going on in order for us to remember our veterans and to remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice, and indeed to bring the Armed Forces Covenant into our minds as well. Do you think we should be doing this every day of the week, if you will, rather than just in November? Because it is that time of year when we really draw attention to it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it really resonates at this time of year because it's a national service of remembrance on Armistice Day, and all the services are usually around that. But when you're supporting veterans and the community, then you want to be doing that 365 days a year. And I think we've got an opportunity to support our veterans, whether it's opening up our halls and providing safe spaces, whether it's veterans breakfast, whether it's supporting the community with our time or supporting charities with money from our charities. There's lots we can be doing.
Absolutely. Now, John, are you ready for a question? Are you
Oh,
ready for a question from
go
our
on then.
audience this evening? Thank you ever so much indeed for joining us. This is Solomon Live, Armed Forces Covenant, and the next steps and how you can get involved. So thank you very much indeed. Now, Geraldine has been in touch, and you may or may not be able to answer this at the stage where you are now, but I'll put it to you anyway, John. Have many women in the Armed Forces joined one of the two women fraternities? Have you seen any of that in place?
I haven't personally, and I can't really comment on that, Brody. But I would imagine that probably, I know we have lots of male military lodges and regiment lodges, and I would imagine that there's nothing stopping that same thing happening in the two women organisations, and I would imagine they would probably welcome it.
Yeah, well, it makes sense, doesn't it? It really does make sense for that to be yes, but we don't know, but we would imagine it would be the case. And here's a question from Ian Fothergill, a fine Worcestershire Mason, John, and he says, given we have a circuit of service lodges, why do we not promote it as part of our support of the Armed Forces Covenant? Now, this is perhaps some of the things you're working on at the moment to
Yeah,
get
well,
out there, isn't it?
sorry, Brody. Yeah, I think one of the things when I sort of started talking about the Armed Forces Covenant, it was the fact that we were probably doing lots of things in our own provinces, but we didn't really have a cohesive national plan. And that's what I'm sort of working on now. I've been speaking to all the provinces right across England and Wales, finding out who's the lead, what they're doing, how they're getting engaged, are they not getting engaged, and try to give us a little bit of an idea of where we stand across our organisation, and then that'll be then up to whoever to decide how we go forward with this, so we can be a little bit more cohesive as an organisation at Remembrance Time or throughout the year. Because I think we're always better in numbers, aren't we? We're stronger with our organisation nationally than us working in little groups in our provinces.
Yeah, absolutely. No, if there's more people doing it, more of that message being spread, no, it makes sense, doesn't it? Ian, thank you so much indeed for submitting that question. And ladies and gentlemen and brethren, you can do the same as well via the question and answer facility at the bottom of your screen on Zoom. John, going back to when we were talking about your workplace signing the Armed Forces Covenant back in the day as well. Um, was that an easy thing to do? Was there any resistance? Did people engage with it straight away within your?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because it costs you nothing to sign the Armed Forces Covenant, bro. If anything, it can also give you a bit of PR as well, a bit of kudos that you're sitting there, you're supporting the Armed Forces. But again, we didn't want that to be just a signature on a document either. So we started getting involved with our local Northeast Reserve Forces and Cadets Association, and they've kindly invited me to be a member on that, which promotes the interests of the armed forces in our local community, bringing businesses together, building relationships, and hopefully supporting veterans into employment. And yeah, when we had some people who were applying, and they were ex-military, and yeah, and they were a really good fit for the business. So why not?
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
supporting our reservists as well with additional, time off, so to speak, to do the work with the forces as well.
Now, Mark's been in touch as well, so lots of great questions coming in, which is good to see. Mark O'Neill, this is a lot of discussion regarding veterans. What do we really mean by supporting our serving armed forces members? What do we mean by that particular side of things?
Well, I think when we look at the covenant, it's looking after serving personnel, veterans, and reservists. So they
Yes.
all fit into the covenant. And, our serving personnel could be, active members of our lodges now, the reservists and the veterans. Well, there could be people who are living in our community. There could be members, might not be members, they don't necessarily need to be, because we still want to support veterans regardless, and then obviously if we do have members, we want to be shown to be an exemplary organization who want to look after the welfare of our armed forces. And I think that goes across whether they're serving or whether they're retired or whether they're reservists.
Yeah, good. Well, beautifully explained, Mark. Hopefully, you got the answer you were looking for. So let's go back to when Durham signed the Armed Forces Covenant, because as we've alluded to already, there's so much more to this than signing some paper to say we're supporting our veterans and the services as well. So, is it a fair assessment, John, that when you signed that, that's when the work really began? And if it is a fair assessment, what work did you do afterwards?
Yeah, I think you're right. My predecessor had signed the Armed Forces Covenant, and we re-signed it again when I came into the role, and I organised an Armed Forces Committee because I was keen that we were going to do something, but we weren't too sure how we were going to do that. So the obvious people to go to was the serving personnel and veterans within our province. So we pulled together a committee of Army, Air Force, Navy, veterans and service personnel, about 6 or 7 guys. And then they started with pulling a bit of a military strategy together, as these guys do very well, of how we could try to make a difference within our province, how we could connect with existing veterans, which has worked very well. We've expanded our committee into an armed forces network. We've had 2 network dinners now. The sort of mess dinner that the armed forces would notice quite well. I was at one only a few days ago. Fantastic music, bands, pipers, drums, with the lots of banter between the services, because there's
Oh, it's
loads of
great, isn't
banter,
it?
loads of banter. It's fantastic to see. Fantastic to see everyone having a wonderful time. Our guys this year did a nearly a 20-mile walk, our veterans, the community armed forces committee, and raised over £20,000 to support
Wow.
veterans charities in our province. And they had them at one of the lodges last week to show them the lodge, show them the building, show them what we do, and hand over the money, which was wonderful. And that's making a difference on our doorstep. And that's what it doesn't have to be a lot, Brody. It's sometimes just thinking about it, thinking, what can we do? Where can we make a little difference, a change? The program master says a lot, sometimes it's the small changes, but lots of them that can make a difference. And I think that's what I'm trying to achieve in Durham with my team. And I think provinces across our organisation are doing just the same.
Yeah, and that's what this is all about. Once again, isn't it, John? It's to hear what you're doing in your wonderful province, to get some success stories, and let's use that word, best practice in other provinces, and coming together and adopting it across the constitution as well. Now, when you highlighted that as an organisation, we could be doing a little bit better when it comes to supporting our armed forces and when it comes to the Armed Forces Covenant. So you decided, well, did you decide to write the paper, or were you asked to write the paper on this?
I was asked. I was asked by Stephen Varley. I was probably mentioned it a few times, and I think it was a case of, well, put pen to paper, so to speak, and then so I just put some thoughts and ideas together, and then I was kindly asked to present a talk at the QC back in September in Grand Lodge, which is a wonderful opportunity to talk in that building at any time. And yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that, and it was lovely to try and get the message across, and the response from provinces has been quite overwhelming, really. Lots of interest from members contacting me, and lots of support from provinces who want to say, this is what we've done, or can we do a bit more? How can we work better together? And then again, like you said, Brody, it's then sharing best practices, and that's where I want to go with this now. We've literally pulled together a bit of a survey. We've got some good information, and then it's a case now of determining as an organisation where we go. Maybe it doesn't have to be anything massive, Brody. It's just a case of aligning provinces and making sure that we're doing the best that we can, in our province, because provinces are all different sizes, from lots of Freemasons to just a few lodges, to having large military contingents and bases within the province, to having no military bases within the province, but you'll still have veterans in your province.
Absolutely.
You'll still have people who serve the armed forces. So there's still people out there who potentially are members of our organisation, could be members of our organisation, and could require support.
Yes, and there's a lesson to be learned also from your last contribution, John, and that is stick your head above the parapet. And you could be leading a national campaign, or whatever term you want to use to call this. But in this case, it's worked rather nicely, hasn't it? Because you're doing such a great job. So let's talk about how far has the Armed Forces Covenant progressed as far as Freemasonry is concerned in England and Wales? Because as I've alluded to a few times now, we signed it. Most provinces have. Is that right to say that of all the provinces signed the covenant now?
All but two, and
Right.
they're in progress now. Some have realised why sign, should they sign, have they not got the military presence in their area, and I think they've all sort of realised that it's probably a good thing to do, as an organisation. So yeah, they've signed. Most of them have signed, and the response I've had from the survey is very encouraging. That we're doing a lot, Brody, but I think sometimes you don't always see it. You might see your own social network feed. You'll see what's happening in your neck of the woods, but you won't necessarily see what's going on nationally. And I think where we have the wonderful National Arboretum service, I think that'll just get bigger as years go on. It's been hosted by Met Grand Lodge next year in Staffordshire, so I think more and more people will want to come and they'll want to support. So yeah, and it's good that I'm seeing provinces supporting with finance, with charitable donations, but with time. That third pillar, the third pillar of our strategy, community engagement, we need to be doing that as well. And we can give our time, we can give our efforts. So yeah, I think on the whole we're doing very well.
Oh, well, that's good, because that's something you're really focusing on now. Back to the questions. Thank you so much indeed, ladies and gentlemen and brethren, for submitting them. And we've had Stephen James, and he says, "Do we have feedback from the armed forces themselves? Are they aware that Freemasonry is here and willing to engage?" That is a really good question. That's Steve in Dorset. That really is good, isn't it? Because we're working hard to encourage veterans, if you will, and members of the armed forces to join us. But are they doing that in return? Do you know?
Well, we have reached silver recognition with the Armed Forces
Oh,
Covenant on their recognition scheme as an organisation, and I think UGLE will be applying for gold next year. So that shows a commitment. And I know in my province with our Lord Lieutenant, she's very aware of what we are doing in our province. And I'm sure a lot of the Lord Lieutenants and the military in different provinces will be aware, whether there's a national, I know there's a national recognition scheme that I've mentioned, but whether there's people in Ministry of Defence sitting there thinking, "Oh, the Freemasons are doing a great job." I honestly don't know, Brody, to be honest. But I think sometimes it's not always about recognition, is it? It's about making sure that the veterans realise we're supporting them. Really, they're the
yeah,
ones who count.
yeah. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Now we've talked about the wonderful work that you've done in Durham, and we talked about what you've seen from the provinces, the districts have met as well. What advice would you give to anyone who's from Met district provinces at the moment to engage more in the covenant? What advice would you what would you like to see them do more of, if you will? If you had a magic wand here.
Well, I'd like to see our members being champions of the covenant. to be advocates for it. I want to, if you join your local armed forces committee. If you've got one, get involved. If you haven't got one, maybe start one. Get involved in the community. Engage with the local military units if you can, and the cadet forces that are in all our areas, in our provinces. We support your local Royal British Legion at times of remembrance, and your SAFA, and the local veterans breakfasts. There's lots of things we can do, Brody. Lots of different ways. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a lot. I think sometimes it's just thinking about it. And I think when you're organized as a committee, as a group, and you've got those ex-military guys, they've got all the connections. They know more military people. They know what they've gone through, or people leaving the forces are going through, readjusting to civilian life and such like, and the challenges that brings.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, isn't it? And we talked about lodges and provinces and districts and Met, and that's important that we do this collectively. As you said earlier, John, we're bigger in numbers if we get everybody involved in this, and it's such an important initiative as well. But what about individuals? What about a brother or companion who's watching this right now who would like to do something themselves, maybe get their lodge involved in this? What kind of things can an individual do, if you will, John?
Well, like I said, Brody, be an advocate for the armed forces. Support your local charities as a lodge unit, as a chapter unit. We can do that. Our cadet forces that are in our areas, and support where we can. But I think being an advocate for the armed forces covenant, and if you're an employer, if you're a member and you're an employer, think about signing the covenant as your company, and supporting the military in that way. Get involved, really.
So it's all about getting involved. We've given you some great ideas to do this evening, and it's great that you've seen lots of this in action as well. Here's another question. I'll tell you what, this is fantastic this evening, by the way, John. So many great questions coming in, which is great, which is really warming to see. Peter Newell, in West Lancashire Province, each group has appointed an AFCO, Armed Forces Covenant Officer. Has this been rolled out in other provinces? Now that sounds like a great idea. What say you, John?
Yeah, obviously we don't have any national cohesive strategy yet. That's what I'm hoping
That's the cub.
we'll get to. But we've also got to be conscious as well, bro, not to put too much, more work on our members as it is, so to speak. But that sounds great what they're doing over there. They're obviously really grasping the nettle and going for it, which is fantastic. Like you say, we started in Durham with an armed forces committee. It's getting those people together, and then how you roll it out in your province, whether you're small or large, will determine how your strategy pans out. But I think there'll be a lot to learn. I'll be giving them a call.
Yes, so there you go. Well done for sending that question in, Peter. Lots of people are getting in touch as well, asking, is there anywhere to go to seek advice on how to adopt the Armed Forces Covenant and support our veterans and services as well? Is there any advice there, John? Anything that you'd recommend they do?
Well, we can obviously point people into the right direction, Brody. If obviously contacting through Solomon here, we'll put people in touch with their local military to start the ball rolling. It's quite an easy process. The signings happen quite regularly within different parts of the country, multiple signings or individual signings, depending on the size of the organization. But we'll help. I'd like to think when we roll out something nationally, we have a bit of a cohesive plan, which will have sort of that information involved in there. If somebody wants to sign, what is the process? How do we go about it? Like I said, it's free to do, and it's welcomed by organizations, employers, individuals to show their commitment.
John, thank you for that. That's a superb answer. And William has been in touch. Now, just to prove that these conversations are so important, William says, as a serving army officer, I can see the benefits of this. Can I get involved and speak with provinces who are currently working on a project? Major Will Johnson, province of North Wales. How lovely to hear that from William. Case in point right there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you can't beat someone talking about it than someone who's walking in them boots as a serving serving officer, and yeah, fantastic. That's the sort of thing that we want, because when you hear it direct from those who are, especially in the serving community, then they understand, and I think it'll resonate more with the members, especially if you're a Freemason as well.
Now, we spoke at the beginning of our conversation, didn't we, about the 7 year strategy, and you and I being invited to, and other wonderful Masons as well, to talk in Grand Lodge about launching the strategy. How does this all fit in with our 7 year strategy, John? Armed Forces Covenant, supporting the services. How does this all come together?
Well, I think when you think back to the three main pillars of the strategy, we want to be a coherent organization. We want to be able to have a thriving membership. We want to attract and retain our veterans within our organization, as well as, like I said, attracting new members, ensuring that the experience they have in Freemasonry keeps them in Freemasonry for life. We know we can do that. And I want them to be in an organization that they'd be proud to be a part of. We're all proud of being Freemasons, and we want to be coherent. We want to have a national unified message across our organization. And then when we talk about the third pillar, the community engagement, we know we're doing that already. We can do more. We want to give more time, energy to and expertise that we can give. If we don't, it isn't always about giving money. That's why we change the word charity to service, so we can do that. And I think we can strengthen our bond with society, and we can connect our armed forces community with other stakeholder organizations. I want us to be more proactive with our internal and external communications on how we support our veterans and how we support our organization. And ultimately, I want us to be seen as an exemplar organization who support the armed forces community. And I think we can do that.
Oh, we can do that. Absolutely. If anyone can do it, we can absolutely do it. John, I've been meaning to ask you, and we're getting so many wonderful questions coming in as well. So as we start to wind things down, what does this mean to you? Because we talked about your wonderful career in Freemasonry, from a very successful festival to being a warden back in the early days, assistant provincial grand master, and of course becoming provincial grand master for Durham. What does this mean to you to be given this role to help lives, essentially, isn't it? To help people. What does it
Yeah,
mean to you?
I think within Freemasonry, we want to make a difference, Brody, don't we? Whether that's somebody in our lodge through advancement through the 3 degrees, or whether we're serving our community. And I think with the armed forces, with Freemasonry, I'd like to think we're making a difference. And I enjoy my Freemasonry, and I enjoy interacting with our members, learning from our members, learning from Freemasons across our organization, and what can we do, where can we make a change. And I think the Armed Forces Covenant is one of them areas where I think we could have a profound impact. And I hope we can. Well, I know we are. I can see from the results of the survey that we're already doing that. Maybe we just need to align ourselves more a little bit nationally, but we're doing well. But sometimes we don't shout up enough, do we, Brody?
Oh, that's Freemasonry for you, isn't it? No, that stops here now. So, final question then, John, and it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you and just hear your wonderful insights on the Armed Forces Covenant and why it's so special, the work that's going on. But let's talk about the work that still needs to be done. So, let's talk about the future, the big plan. What have you got planned, or what would you like to see happening?
Well, like I said, I'd like us to, as an organization, continue the work that we're doing, probably a little bit more cohesively as an organization, with a little bit of a national strategy. That would be nice to see. Next year, we've got some big anniversaries coming up. We've got the VE Day 80th anniversary next year, VJ Day in August. I mentioned before, we've got 2.4 million veterans out there, Brody, which potentially are our members, or potentially could be our members, and they're there to be supported. We want recruitment, we want retention within our organization. Like I said, I want us to be an exemplar organization. That's what I want. If members are happy, we bring other members into our organisation. If veterans are happy, they'll bring in their other military friends into our organisation to enable them to have that brothers in arms mentality that I think that they would be craving if they've left the services, and they would really enjoy Freemasonry. So I'm quite optimistic. I'm optimistic to see what we've been doing up to now, and I think it doesn't need an awful lot of work, to be honest, Brody. It just needs a little bit of in the line and bringing things together. But we've got some great people out there. We have some fantastic members, fantastic guys who always want to step up and support their community, support this organisation, which I'm very proud of them for doing that.
Well, we're very proud of you, sir, for all the work that you've done to bring this to the fore, to get more of our brethren involved in this. And you've inspired lots of people. I've just even seen a message saying a call to action, if you will. Thank you for inspiring, and they're going to go away and look into doing lots more interaction with their province as well. John, it's been great to have you. Have you enjoyed your Solomon Live experience?
Brody, it's been an absolute pleasure. That's another one of my bucket lists ticked off. So thank you very much indeed.
Oh, but honestly, John, you've been absolutely fantastic. And that was such an inspirational 40 minutes or so. So thank you very much indeed. And ladies and gentlemen and brethren, thank you ever so much indeed for joining us tonight. So our next Solomon Live will be on Wednesday, the 11th of December, where our topic will be Freemasonry and the Faiths. And joining us will be UGLE Grand Chaplain, Worshipful Brother Simon Thorne, discussing how Freemasonry unites people of all faiths. And joining the conversation will also be brethren of Jewish, Islamic, Christian, and Hindu beliefs as well. A very special Solomon Live for you to join. And once again, that will be Wednesday, the 11th of December, 2024. And of course, I'm referring 7:30 as the UK time. Now, if you haven't done so already, please register for Solomon. You'll find it in no time at all. solomon.ugle.org.uk, full of useful and fantastic content for your daily advancement in Masonic knowledge. Until December, have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you back here very, very soon. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.